not kneeling down. I'm just standing here.
You gotta use daylight.
All right, is everyone ready? All right, go around and entertain your questions. Check.
Yeah, I think everyone's read the press release we put out this morning, so I'm really here just to answer any questions you may have related to it.
What's a big idea?
Well, the big idea is we've got 2 venues that are in need of renovation, and we needed to bring in some outside expertise to help us begin the evaluation.
Let's take this one first. What's wrong with this place?
Well, this place I think has got a lot of things related to kind of the base infrastructure that need some help. I think there's been some reporting about quality of seats and the technology in the building. I would tell you that from where I stand, certainly we've witnessed that some of the audio in the building is not up to snuff. There's a laundry list of things that we could go through that, you know, with a 23-year-old building like we have here, we're ready for the next phase of development.
Are you looking at opening up the space more and making it more welcoming? Are you looking at the new digital screen?
I think if you look at a lot of the modern arenas, they have more enclosed space that they can do programming for their fans and actually enhance the fan experience. I think that's something that we are lacking. I think you look at the plaza area, and while it's great, you know, we're in a cold weather market, and sometimes that doesn't serve our purposes as much as it should.
There haven't been any major renovations. There's been small renovations in this arena. Is that fair? This would be,
yeah.
You're looking at what would be the first major renovation to happen here since it opened?
Yeah, that's very fair. The Pegulas, we've spent about $26 million of our own money in the last 5 years just on, you know, kind of the small pieces here and there, but in terms of a large renovation, we have not undertaken one.
What about the Bills at this
If you build the stadium, the Bills Stadium, as you move it downtown, how big a fear is losing the tailgate culture that exists in Orchard Park?
Really early to make a determination like that. I would say to you, though, the tailgating is an absolute essential part of the experience. I think our fans do it better than anybody when done responsibly, obviously. And I even rode around a lot of the tailgating last weekend to really kind of get a feel for what's been going on, what sort of, you know, the modern tailgating looks like these days. So it really would have to be an essential part of any experience that we would create now or in the future.
Do you expect
potential sites at this point, though? I mean, what are you actually looking at, or what is this development company actually looking at?
We're literally, this is the germination phase of exactly, so we haven't identified any specific sites yet. We're going to be going through all that research in the coming months.
Do you expect that it will lead to, the study will lead to determination that a new stadium is needed, or is it just going to be more renovations?
Ultimately, it's going to give us options. It's going to provide for us what can happen at New Era Field. It's going to also provide for us what may be the chance to entertain a new option for a stadium.
Is the study expected to determine for you whether or not the stadium would remain in Orchard Park or go somewhere else?
It'll give us options, is really what it's going to do. It's going to identify the ability to stay where we are, or it's going to take a look at some options to do something different if we can.
How much
How
would
would
it
I
cost
pay
them?
for?
How much of a costly undertaking would it be to completely retrofit or renovate Ralph Wilson's New Era Field now?
Yeah, it always depends on what you want to do. Last time around, it was a $130 million expenditure. That was a combination. It was a public-private partnership that we've always enjoyed. It really just comes down to scale and what you want to get accomplished in terms of enhancing the fan experience.
Can you give me an idea, though, of a timeline? When do you expect to have the study completed? Which I understand, it's not saying, you're not saying right now, we need to do this or we need to do that. That's the purpose of the study. What's our best option? Right. So how long before you think you get the study completed so that you can go forward?
So I think this initial phase is about 6 to 9 months. When we'll get back the initial feedback, there's a lot of people we're going to have to talk to. A lot of key stakeholders, sponsors, advertisers, fans. There are literally thousands of variables that are going to come into play. And so I think that sort of 6 to 9 month period will be the initial period for evaluation.
And even if it came back that said, yeah, you definitely need a new stadium. We're talking years and years anyway, aren't we? Several?
We're talking years and years, and again, you know, we're also going to be relying on the public-private partnership we've always had to even see whether it's feasible, even if the study comes back to tell us that a new building may be a necessity.
So
when it comes time for
cost?
state money,
Yeah,
when it comes time for state money, what would be your pitch to convince downstate lawmakers, whatever the price tag is, why is a stadium here a benefit to downstate?
I think it's too early to determine that right now. Until we have more specifics about what the stadium may look like, what may be related to it, it's too early to kind of tell you what the pitch may be.
How much is Pegula spending on this study?
How much are we spending on it? We're doing it privately. I prefer not to tell you the number.
Is any public money going into
None.
that?
Zero.
How much will the whole thing cost if you do in the stadium? And would it be how much would be borne public? How much private? How much are the Pegulas willing to bear?
Way too early to tell.
How much pressure does the lease situation have on this situation?
The lease, again, we've had a great partnership with Erie County, with the state of New York, and in terms of New Era Field, that one's got 5 years left on it. For KeyBank Center, that has 8, so we have some more time in relative terms, but we are up against it. We are now to the phase where we have to begin to make some determinations because 5 years goes really at the blink of an eye.
Are you facing a lot of pressure nationally from other owners in the league and whatever in terms of New Era Field?
No, the NFL we've been, in talks with them throughout, have gained a lot of knowledge, a lot of feedback from them on other projects that have happened around the country, but there's no inherent pressure. The pressure we really have is related to, we have expiring leases and we have, candidly, venues that need upgrading.
Do you think that the community, though, has much of a stomach for, let's say, a new stadium and the amount of money that would probably be required from the taxpayers and the ancillary costs such as seat licenses that they come into play? I mean, you must certainly by now kind of have some sort of flavor of how much the community could stomach.
The research that we're about to embark on is going to provide us that feedback. That's really why we hired CAA Icon to help us out.
Is that why you hired Chris?
The public
You're going to have to ask the state for a lot of money. Is that why you hired Chris Shefflin?
Chris's hiring really comes at a time where we just have to have, closer ties to everybody in the public sector that we interact with, on a frequent basis. And he's got a rich experience in doing that and in creating deals that work for everybody. So we're going to rely on his expertise there.
If I could just follow up on my previous question. So talk about this study. How much of that is going to engage the public to find out?
A lot.
Do they really want? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, a lot. It is the primary basis for why we're doing it, to really talk to every key stakeholder that's out there and try and make a determination about what preferences are out there, what we can afford, and really what the marketplace wants.
Is it talking to the public as fans or as taxpayers?
Both. I mean, they're one and the same to me because, every fan presumably pays taxes.
Is there any possibility of an enclosed stadium?
Do you want to leave Orchard Park and come downtown? You would actually ask fans that question?
We're going to ask them a lot of different questions. What the specific questions are yet, we haven't even determined. Literally, CAA Icon is in town today for the first time.
How much of this study is...
We don't go into it with any preconceived notions. I will tell you quite honestly, we've been asked by CAA Icon, to really have as open a mind as we can, and we're going into this exercise like that.
How much of this study is focused on the stadium versus the arena? Like, how much of their time and energy are you guys going to spend on the stadium?
I would tell you that I think it won't be equal. It would probably be more heavily weighted towards the stadium, at least because that lease is also coming up before the lease for KeyBank Center is.
Have you had any discussions about a potential combination with Erie County on a convention center at all?
It's all on the table. I mean, it's one of those that we haven't gotten into that specific conversation, but certainly I would presume it'll be part of the dialogue.
Is that a heavy ask? Saying, he issued a statement earlier saying that just because they hired, we knew about this, no surprise, and just because they're doing this doesn't mean anything at all will happen. Do you agree with that?
I think, again, we need to get a lot of feedback before we make any determination about what our direction is going to look like.
What do you already hear from fans about outdoor stadium versus indoor enclosed stadium?
I think there are people that will give you every part of the spectrum in terms of opinion. There are those that love the amenity of the potential of being indoor and creature comforts. I think we all can agree that we have a very distinct advantage, especially this time of year, with it snowing outside and what it means to be down at New Era Field, in the later games during the season and having teams have to come play here.
What about in context? Talk a little bit about how you plan to collect that feedback from fans, or surveys, or polls, or what do you?
Combination of everything. There'll be some broad-based surveying. There'll be some one-on-one conversations, group-related studies. It really is going to run the gamut.
What about in context? The possibility of a new convention center, renovations to here and the stadium. Mm-hmm. That's 3 very big asks out of Albany because they're going to have to be a partner in this. Are you fearful that they may say, Mr. Priorities 1, 2, or 3, and you have to decide?
We've always enjoyed a great partnership, with every level of the public sector, and I think it's just going to be very productive dialogue that's going to lead us to a pretty natural conclusion.
Will there have to become a point where there has to be a decision stadium versus convention center, stadium versus renovation?
That's probably a better question for them than us.
Can you describe some of the specifics that you think might need addressing at New Era Field, especially after the $130 million in renovations?
Yeah, I think it's a continuation of some of the things we've already done. I think there's another level of technology that we can enjoy. There's another level of enhancing the fan experience by creating things, either spaces or programmatic things that really get the fans engaged on a more consistent basis. Everything from the concessions to the video and audio to what the premium seating configurations look like. A lot of the things that were part of the last renovation, even back to '99, the fan is now demanding different things than they were 15, 20 years ago, and we have to recognize that.
What do they want that you didn't want, besides a winning team?
Well, that's always a fun part of it as well. There are things like communal spaces that we don't really have en masse right now, where you really can have the opportunity to congregate but not have to be in a fixed seating position. There are things where there's additional technology and information that fans are looking for that we don't necessarily always provide them as much as we do right now.
What about
things like
what
that?
about in this arena, the front of the house? You've addressed a lot of the back of the house with the new locker rooms and workout stuff. But from the fan perspective, what does a 25-year-old arena need?
Same thing. I think if you go down the initial list, you're talking about what the seating bowl is going to look like, what the configuration is going to be, what the premium areas are going to look like, and what fans really want. And again, I go back to the technology. You look at just about every modern arena now, there's at least 2 layers of LED boards that are going around to provide fans information and engagement. There's lots of those things that we don't enjoy right now, and I think we're going to need as we move forward.
Are there some things you're expecting the
here.
This place.
Yeah.
Are there some things you're expecting the consultant study will answer for you? I mean, there are already so many things that you need. So are there some things you're like, well, we don't know if we want to go this way or this way? Do you have any specifics in mind that you specifically ask consultants?
I think we do have what we think, but the whole point of this is we're going to engage the fan base in a very concerted way to make sure we understand what they think is important. That's the part that we haven't done yet, and that's what this exercise is going to help us with.
The youth practice facilities getting renovated right now. In addition, could you envision keeping the practice facilities out there, or just have the stadium down there?
I think that we have created a great training facility. When this last, portion is done, I would literally put it up against any other one in the entire NFL. So I can't imagine us leaving that facility anytime soon.
Do you expect that more? You're talking about creating more enclosed spaces for congregating, so not necessarily opening up or brightening up the arena here or something like that.
Could be a combination of the two. One necessarily doesn't sort of preclude the other one, and again, I think a lot of the research is going to tell us what the fans are looking for.
And what about the food service in Delaware North?
All on the table. All on the table. We know that we've got to improve the fan experience. We know it's very good now. We know it can get better though. Yeah, I think, fan experience, but then again, you want to make sure as well that every amenity that we have for the teams and for our staff here is, lets them do their jobs to the best of their ability as well.
Are you concerned that as you're doing the study, especially on the stadium and potentially looking at, obviously, the idea of moving downtown, given all the publicity about it, given all the expectations and the talk about possible locations, that prices for the real estate are, shooting upward?
Certainly land acquisition, if we decided to do anything, would be an important part of the entire project, and it would all be evaluated to determine whether it's feasible or not.
So just to be clear, you don't expect the study to actually recommend to you guys, yes, you should keep the stadium in Orchard Park, or you should go, you're just asking them to offer options no matter where you decide to
go. I think it's options for us to evaluate and then begin to talk with our public sector partners about what we want to accomplish.
Have you guys already started putting some money toward the new stadium fund? That was an option under the lease. Have you put some of the money that the county's contributed toward that?
The 3 parties have agreed generally to set aside some money to make a determination if we want to hire again another third party to do an evaluation on behalf of the 3 parties, but no final determination has been made.
So how much money then, public money, is already in the new stadium fund now?
I think that would be more appropriate for the county executive to talk
about. What role
does
the city of Buffalo play in all this? Because they own the land that we're standing on, and in 7 years they're going to own this building.
They play a big part. I talked with the mayor this morning about this engagement and where we're going. And again, we've had a great public-private partnership with the mayor and his entire administration, and he's going to be an integral part of the conversation moving forward.
The fan feedback, is it possible some of that feedback will actually be at the game? If some of the remaining games, might you get some feedback at the remaining
Yeah, I think it'll be one of those that I'll call it sort of static and active. You know, there'll be static engagement where it'll be non-game related and non-event related, and I'm sure that there'll be some points of interaction when CAA Icon and their crew are going to want to talk to fans as they're right in the middle of the game action. Well, hopefully not in the middle of the game action, but in terms of the game day experience.
If CAA Icon is doing the actual leading the way in the actual survey and study and all that, what's Populous for?
Populous has a lot of the, I'll say the background on it, because they were involved in our last renovation in New Airfield. They did the actually architectural, the renderings and everything else. They just helped us with the premium spaces when we redid all the club spaces, the enclosed club spaces there. They just have a great amount of institutional knowledge, and they know us very well. They know sort of our DNA, and so they were a natural kind of add-on to the CAA Icon engagement.
Are they going to be giving you actually drawings or proposals?
No, we're not quite there yet. It may be more blue sky kind of concepts, but not really. We're not at the stage where we're going to get down to specific renderings and things like that.
That's the last question. How important is it to get a definitive answer so this issue doesn't linger for months, years, whatever? Because the stadium issue has been around for generations now, almost from the day it opened in '73.
Yeah.
I mean, how important is it to have? All right, we need a new stadium by this. We're not going to let this issue linger.
I think definitive options are very important. A definitive answer is what we'll end up getting towards, but then we'll have to draw in a lot of other people to weigh in on. But I think having the options available and really having some broader-based dialogue is our great starting point.
Real quick, does the growing presence that you have right here, and now that you've got Labatt as well, and does that play a role in your decision-making related to both the football stadium as well as what you might do when the lease here expires?
It'll be a consideration. I mean, certainly we've invested a lot in this near district between Harbor Center and between now 79 Perry, which just opened, the draft room, and obviously Labatt relocating their headquarters. So certainly our investment here would lead you towards thinking at least, it has to be one of the options. But again, no preconceived notions going into this entire study.
Is it conceivable that you may need short-term leases for both facilities, given just natural construction time frame and everything that involved with development or renovation?
It is conceivable that we would go beyond the formal leases that we have right now.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Streaming, so.
Oh, I know.